series or previous episode, we spoke about the diabetes and the geriatric part. In this series, in this episode, we are going to focus on mostly on the geriatric and the nutrition part. So to discuss this, we have with us two most eminent people from the healthcare industry. So here we have with us Dr. Srinivas Thakur, who is a consultant geriatrician in Mumbai, elderly care specialist, physician, and intensivist Commonwealth scholar. We also have with us Professor Chandrakant Patankar, who was an ex-professor microbiologist in St. GS Medical College and KM Hospital, Mumbai. So I would like to hand over this to you and take this series forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Sanjana. Good evening, namaskar everyone, and welcome Dr. Srinivas Thakur. Today we are going to discuss about a very important area, that geriatric nutrition. In fact, in Ayurveda, Sushruta had written, Vardhakya is a Swabhava, where improved nutrition and nourishment plays a very important role. When we look at the Indian scenario, initially 2001 census reported around 7% people are elderly people. And by 2050, it is expected to be 20% of the Indian population to be an elderly population. Secondly, the dietary goals of National Institute of Nutrition, as floated in 2011, they specifically mention about elderly nutrition as one of the important goals is maintenance of the health of elderly and increasing their life expectancy. We often get confused. नेहमी गोंधळ होतो आपला. Senior citizen, elderly, geriatric person, and these terms are intermingled and they are used, whichever way people like to use them. So I would like to ask Dr. Srinivas, sir, how does one define geriatric person or a geriatric patient?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Patankar, Professor Patankar, for inviting me for this webinar.
Thank you.
Your question, geriatric patient, strictly speaking, it is different in Western countries, different in Indian scenario.
Sorry to interrupt. Sir, the voice is coming very low. So if you guys can speak slightly loudly, it would be better.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So in Western countries like US, UK, and European countries, the age cutoff is 65 years and above.
Okay.
In India, the age cutoff has been kept as 60 years and above. Two reasons, primarily because our life expectancy is not yet at par with the Western countries.
Okay.
The second is to make it easier, the retirement age is 60 years. So that is why 60 is decided as a geriatric age group. But please speaking, it doesn't mean that once you enter 60, you automatically become very old or you become geriatric. It also depends upon your functionality or the rate of independence that you have and the quality of life that you maintain. So all these factors decide who really is a geriatric patient.
Okay.
But for simple purposes, 60 years and above is considered as geriatric in India.
Okay, so it's an interchangeable kind of terminology, one can say. So, now, as a geriatric physician, what is your main goal while treating a geriatric patient?
So, we have to understand it something like, we know pediatrics very well. Like pediatrics is a specialty, especially for small children or children.
Yeah.
On similar concept, this specialty has been developed because with the increasing life expectancy and improvement in healthcare infrastructure, more and more people we are finding are living into their 80s, 90s, and even some even in the hundreds. So these group of patients require something special, which is relatively more than what a physician can offer because they do not receive special training in that. So geriatrician receives extensive training in different aspects of elderly care. So moreover, our main concentration or main focus is to look after the functionality of an elderly person. And functionality means it is divided into 2-3 criteria, like activities of daily living, which is basic and instrumental. So whether a patient is, or whether a person or an elderly person is able to get up from the bed by himself, he is able to go to the toilet, he is able to wear his own clothes, he is able to eat food by himself, he is able to take medicines. These are the important aspects that more important aspects that we look at other than the medical problems, and we make sure that the elderly get or are able to lead a better quality of life.
Okay. Now, what are the common problems faced by the elderly population?
So we know that non-communicable diseases are much more prevalent these days. I mean, right now, besides the corona pandemic or the COVID-19 pandemic, diabetes and blood pressure or high blood pressure are the two most common primary non-communicable diseases. And as goes older, the complications arising out of these, like cardiovascular problems, the kidney issues, the lung involvement, the brain involvement, like cognition problems like dementia or Alzheimer's, these are more commonly seen in the elderly. But other some geriatric specific issues, just to name a few, like frailty. It is different. I mean, there are multiple definitions for frailty, but in simple terms, it means that the body has decreased capacity to handle the stresses. Even normal stresses can lead an elderly patient into an ICU. And which I would like to tell is something called as sarcopenia, which is as loss of muscle mass, basically muscle protein. So the lean body weight or the lean body mass decreases, but the fat tissue is increasing. So this is something which is two relatively new terms and which we look more over in elderly patients. And other than that, a couple of issues like nutritional issues are very common. And common, there are multiple reasons for that. Nutrition we see in few of the elderly patients who are neglected or who have some or the other comorbidities and not able to maintain their fluid intake. Other than that, some important other issues are mobility impairment is there. Many people are not able to walk properly. Some people experience falls and because of that fractures. Mood disorders are relatively common, especially depression. And common problems that we find is sleep disorder. And many elderly people are on sleep medicines for that.
Okay, thank you very much for enumerating such big list of problems the elderly can face. But I'm sure that nutrition plays a very important role and helps to come over many of these problems if it is properly planned. And as you said, malnourishment can be overlooked or is present. So how does malnutrition affect life of an elderly actor?
Basically, we require three minimum things, that is water, food and air to survive, other than everything else. So food that we eat, our body requires all the macro as well as micronutrients, whether it is the minerals, the trace elements. It's all help in building the immunity as well. So there is a term called as immunosenescence, which means as a person grows older, his immunity level goes on decreasing. So in some patients, I mean, if the elderly person has a proper, balanced, adequate diet, then this can be recovered to a certain extent. But if the person getting adequate nutrition and is going towards malnourishment or is malnourished, then the immune becomes more and more weaker. So these people are more prone for diseases, infectious disease, as well as other non-communicable or communicable diseases. Recent studies have shown that nutrition has an important part to play in the two terms, geriatric terms that I mentioned, that is frailty and sarcopenia.
Okay, fine. Now, what is roughly the proportion of elderly people, whether they are looked after, घरी त्यांना पाहिलं जातं किंवा ओल्ड एज होम मध्ये ते असतात किंवा हॉस्पिटलाइज झालेले असतात, जहां भी रहेंगे वहां पे माल न्यूट्रिशन का प्रोपोर्शन कितना रहता है यूजुअली इन योर और रिपोर्ट?
ह्याच्यात पण there are certain differences in the Western countries and the Indian country.
Right.
Yeah. Now there is a scientific committee called ESPEN, which is a European society which decides on the nutritional aspects, and it is one of the most famous societies for that. So done a study, and in 2018 they had released a guideline, and in that they found that approximately people who are independently rather, means they don't require anybody else. Incidence is somewhere around 10 to 18%.
Okay.
And those people who get hospitalized who acutely because of something, or those who are in rehabilitation post surgery recovery, they found that up to 66% of those patients can be malnourished.
Oh my goodness.
And one study was done in India, and in that they found that 15% are malnourished and 61% of the people are at risk of malnutrition.
Okay.
So, and the person grows older, there is an increasing chance of them being malnourished or being at risk of malnutrition.
That means that one has to be really caring for our elders in our houses and look after their nutrition very carefully.
Yes.
Right. Another issue comes about this is about obesity. I hear that obesity is pretty common in the Western world. And what is the situation in India as far as obesity in elderly is concerned?
See, obesity is very much prevalent in the Western countries compared to India because of the dietary as well as lifestyle patterns that they have. But India is not much far behind them. We are also now westernizing our diet and lifestyle as well. So most of the studies that I had gone through, they had suggested it is somewhere between 18 to 30% of the people, generally who are between 60 to 65 and above a year.
Okay. Now, speaking about malnutrition again, what are the various reasons why we see malnutrition more commonly in the elderly population?
Now, there are multiple reasons for this, particularly malnourishment. It can be divided into physical problems, which are more common, or it can be psychological, or it can be other social issues. It can be chewing issues can be there. Especially many elderly don't have proper dentition, or their teeth are not well maintained. They have some of the tooth or gum problem, or some of them have dentures, but these dentures are not well fitted. So whenever you chew on these food items, it starts paining and they don't swallow. I mean, they don't feel like eating more. So another physical limiting ability commonly, which is found is people who have recovering or who have had a stroke or paralysis. So if the arms or legs are affected, then it can affect the food intake. Similarly, if the neck muscles are affected, it can affect the swallowing. Patients have restricted mobility, like patients with Parkinson's disease or patients post-fracture when they are mobilizing. So this can also be an issue when it comes to intake of food, and especially when people are not there to give it to them. Psychological or social, I can tell, or another issue is cognitive impairment, which we know as dementia or Alzheimer's disease.
Now, what is this cognitive impairment in, so that I can understand it simply?
So cognitive impairment means our brain controls all the functions of our body. So basically, cognition means there are multiple aspects involved in that. Memory is one of the most common. What we know as Alzheimer's disease, which affects the memory. But at the same time, to understand there are multiple other areas also which get affected. That is the spatial, the execution, and once these areas starts getting affected, the person loses coordination, or he doesn't and these in turn can impair his eating ability.
सॉर्ट ऑफ समज शक्ती किंवा आकलन शक्ती कमी होते म्हणू शकू का आपण?
तसं
म्हणू शकतो आपण. पण ह्या ज्या सगळ्या मालन्यूट्रिशनच्या किंवा मालनरिशमेंटच्या गोष्टी आहेत, आर देयर एनी सिंपल वेज, और घरी मला समजू शकेल का? घर में बैठे जो लोग हैं, कैन दे नो कि घर में जो बुजुर्ग लोग हैं उनमें मालन्यूट्रिशन हो रहा है? व्हाट आर द वेरियस इंडिकेटर्स फॉर रिड्यूस न्यूट्रिशन इन एल्डरली?
Technically speaking, it is a bit of medical thing which is there. Only how the family people can come to know is their food intake has dramatically decreased. They tell कि हमारा भूख लागत नहीं, we don't know what it is, or weight loss. Now, in medical terms, weight loss means it has to be involuntary. Means they are not particularly trying. They are not on any specific diet as such which causes weight loss. So to define that, like the patient is reduced nutrition, it is ideally somewhere between 5% weight loss in 1 month, 5% and 10% or more in the last 6 months. Another medical way is to see the BMI or the body mass index, which is a relation of weight and height of the person. BMI is less than 20, then it is generally considered that a patient is at risk of malnourishment.
त्याचा अर्थ असा की बाय सिम्पल वे ऑफ घरामध्ये वेइंग बॅलन्स ठेवायचा आपण वजन काटा आणि रेग्युलरली एल्डर्सच्या घरातल्या बुजुर्गांची वृद्ध लोकांची पण वजनाची माप वजनाच्या नोंदी ठेवत जायच्या रेग्युलरली आणि त्याच्यावर एक साधारण अंदाज बांधता येतो. बाकी सर्व गोष्टी व्यवस्थित असतील नॉर्मल आहेत तरी पण वजन कमी होत असेल तर सहसा रिस्क ऑफ माल न्यूट्रिशन इज देअर असं आपण म्हणू शकतो. राईट. मग अशा लोकांमध्ये की न्यूट्रिशनचा प्रॉब्लेम असेल ज्यांना त्यांच्यामध्ये व्हॉट आर द एम्स ऑफ थेरपी. थेरपी इज डायरेक्टेड टुवर्ड्स व्हॉट बेसिकली.
Basically, nutrition or any, not just nutrition, any aspect of medicine aim असतं की patient should improve, his quality of life should improve.
बरोबर आहे.
Functionality should be good.
बरोबर.
Specifically in nutrition, आपण बघायला जातो की त्यांचं all the macro as well as micronutrients to be like their protein, fat and carbohydrate intake, their micronutrients, the trace elements as well as the energy consumption is met adequately.
Okay.
The ultimate goal is to maintain their functionality and to get a good quality of life, and that they become as much independent of others as possible.
आपण आता जनरली मी असं ऐकतो व्हॉट आय हिअर is a middle age or young adult who is very active, he should have around 2500 kilocalories per day. Sedentary म्हणजे ज्याचं बैठक काम आहे, he should have around 2000 kilocalories per day. Same way, what is the energy requirement for an elderly person or an aged person?
See, it is obviously when we are in the working or the middle age group, the energy requirements are obviously more. But as a person goes into the elderly or the geriatric age group, obviously it is not like they are totally sedentary. We should not overfeed them also. The idea where balance is, and it depends from case to case also. And the underlying problem काय आहे, if they are having any condition which is causing the malnourishment, or if there is an acute period, म्हणजे acute illness झालाय किंवा recovery phase मध्ये आहेत, then they obviously require more food intake. But in a normal healthy older person, it is between 25 to 30 kilocalories per kilogram per day.
आणि त्याच्यामध्ये what should be the proportion of protein, carbohydrate and fats? Any suggestions are given like that?
Suggestions are given, but this is also we have to individualize. For general people, it is important that everything is met in त्याचा म्हणतो RDA, that is recommended daily allowance म्हणतो त्याला.
Right.
We have to make sure that the elderly or the geriatric age group person gets everything in adequate amounts.
Okay.
Like आधी मी जसं सांगितलं की the energy should requirement or the calorie intake should be between 25 to 30 kilocalories per day. We should make sure that out of this, minimum 50 to 55% is coming from carbohydrate stuff or carbohydrate content food. And 15 to 20% is coming from the protein, and remaining 15% is coming from the fats.
Okay.
And fiber is also a very important component. I will probably talk about it later if time permits. But recommended fiber intake is also somewhere between 25 to 35 grams per day.
आणि हे आवश्यकच आहे, फायबर इंटेक आवश्यकच आहे.
आणि तसंच प्रोटीन इंटेक पण जरा आवश्यक आहे. आता प्रोटीन पर्सेंटेजेस मध्ये सांगितलं पण जनरली मेडिकल टर्म्स मध्ये बघायला गेलो तर स्टँडर्ड असतं की 0.8 ग्रॅम पर किलोग्राम म्हणतात पर डे फॉर अन ॲव्हरेज पर्सन. एल्डरली मध्ये प्रोटीन इज मोर इम्पॉर्टंट बिकॉज सार्कोपिनिया इज अ कंडिशन वेअर द मसल प्रोटीन इज लॉस्ट और द मसल मास इज लॉस्ट. Need a bit of protein intake. So generally for elderly, आपण म्हणतो की 1 to 1.2 ग्रॅम पर किलोग्राम द्यायचं. So that if there is an acute condition or acute hospitalization, it may require even up to 2 gram per kilogram per day. But it depends whether his kidneys are functioning well. If the kidney not a chronic kidney disease or acute kidney injuries, we cannot give them very high protein intake also.
And I think when you increase the protein intake, one has to also simultaneously manage the fiber intake also. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right. Now, how does what way these dietary fibers they help generally and specifically an elderly person? Suppose a person doesn't take a good dietary fiber, So what problems can arise in an elderly person? So there are two things to be looked at. How much should be the fiber intake? What way does it help? And if absent in adequate quantity, what problems it can lead?
See, stomach or gastrointestinal problems, specifically constipation, is very, very common in an elderly person.
Okay.
Some people also present with diarrhea. Many of them have a condition called as irritable bowel syndrome. And fiber is basically something which helps in forming the stool content. And दोन प्रकारचे असतात, एक soluble असतं आणि एक non-soluble fiber असतं.
Okay.
Soluble fiber, basically it gets absorbed and it helps in the glucose metabolism, and it's helpful in diabetic patients.
Okay.
Insoluble fiber plays more important, which is not absorbed. It forms the bulk of the stools, a bulk form करतं संडासाचं. Draws all the water also, and it helps in ease, म्हणजे आरामात संडास पास होऊ शकतो.
Okay.
It helps in maintaining the gut motility as well as the normalization of their bowel function.
Okay. That means a good adequate dietary fiber, which is a correct proportion of both insoluble and soluble fibers.
Yes.
It helps in two ways actually. It regularizes the motion, regular passing of the stools, and prevents problems like constipation or bezoars or whatever it may be there. Secondly, it also impedes the glucose absorption to a greater extent. So does this have a role in diabetes management as well? The fibers?
Yes.
Soluble fibers?
Yes, but like I told, the soluble fibers, they get absorbed from the intestine. They have high galactomannan content, basically.
Okay, okay.
I won't go into the details of the mechanism exactly, but
That's fine.
Know that it helps in stabilizing or normalizing the blood glucose levels. And if the people have a good enough fiber intake, their sugar medicines also can be gradually brought down.
Oh, great. It's a great thing. Now in our Indian traditional methodology, I remember Ajiza Batawa Manto Marathi Madhe आपण, right? I remember in my childhood also, or I used to be given मेथी का दाना भिगो के रात भर, और सुबह उठ के थोड़ा थोड़ा बहुत कड़वा लगता था लेकिन खाना पड़ता था. हाँ, and methi is nothing but fenugreek, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So what way is fenugreek useful? Would you advise a fenugreek thing for diabetic patients, elderly, or otherwise also to help the GI thing?
Yes. Basically, fenugreek also, like I told, how it contains something called as, this contains a different fiber content which is called as glucomannan.
Okay.
Does it delays whatever we eat, आपण जे पण बॉडी मध्ये जाऊन फायनली ग्लुकोज किंवा शुगर मध्ये कन्वर्ट होतो.
Correct.
Eating fenugreek and the substance it contains, it delays absorption of that glucose. At the same time, it contains two enzymes, which one of them I know is fenugresin, is having an hypoglycemic effect also. म्हणजे ते शुगरला कमी करतो.
Okay.
And it contains some amino acids which are known to pancreas like stimulate further to release the insulin.
Oh, very good.
Basically, diabetes we divided into three parts: diabetes management. One is diet, one is exercise, and one is the medication.
Correct.
Along with exercise and diet, adding or taking this fenugreek sometimes in the food is known to improve your glycemic control or glycemic target.
Oh, very well said, doctor. That means we can, these fenugreek preparations can be used as a supplement to the diabetic medications without any harm to the patient. In fact, benefit to the patients, diabetic patients. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, what advice would you give for a diabetic elderly person vis-a-vis nutrition? Because I hear that there may be diabetic persons who are obese, or there may be diabetic persons who are very lean, पतले हो जाते हैं डायबिटिक की वजह से. तो उनमें अलग-अलग अप्रोच होना है क्या न्यूट्रिशन के लिए?
Yes, one of the most common things we know is diabetes causes weight loss. वजन कमी होता है.
Okay.
So generally we focus on increasing their weight. आणि भरपूरदा असं पण होतं की diabetes medicines also, some of the medicines have side effect of causing weight loss.
Okay.
those medicines are generally used in obese diabetic patients. We have to be both sides. There can be a diabetic who is malnourished also, who is
Okay.
his BMI is low, who is not adequately, his weight is not adequate enough. Because both, if the patient is very malnourished, we should see that his weight is increasing adequately at least. And by weight, I don't mean the fat content, I mean the lean body mass or the protein,
Okay.
protein content, the muscle content.
Okay.
The prevalence is more in generally malnourishment, so the prevalence rate is more in diabetics. Basically,
Okay.
the diabetics, the food, the choices or the categories are very much restricted. That becomes a
Correct.
so
Correct.
ideally it is somewhat similar. The like what we spoke about, they should receive the same calories per day. Intake, carbohydrate, everything should be in the recommended same allowances.
I mean, you are indicating that if we have any diabetic elder in our home, we have to be extra careful about the food intake and nutrition.
Yes.
Now, this leads to another issue. All diabetes is suggested that blood glucose monitoring is very important. People may go into hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, and that's why regular monitoring is required. So, what would you suggest for the elderly diabetic people? How frequently they should be monitoring their blood sugar?
See, that also depends case to case basis, depending on things whenever they present or what their present diabetes status is, whether it is well controlled or very poorly controlled.
Okay.
Is how much educated they are or who the person who is going to monitor the sugar is. There is the financial capability also, because these meters are not that cheap also. I mean, those who can afford, or what happens is many times I guide them to tell, I mean, if the patient is coming with a poor control, I tell them to monitor the sugars for 3 days.
Okay.
Report it to me, and on that basis I decide whether it is well being controlled well with the current medications or not.
Okay.
And another thing is about the knowledge, how to check the blood sugar and all. For that, generally we have a team of educators who guide them about how to check. And these days with the social media and YouTube and everything, anyone can easily go on the net and see also how to monitor the glucose. But ideally, any person, whether it is well controlled, poorly controlled, recommendations are there that if the sugar control is poor, he should do his fasting. From lab, I'm telling you. And this, what I was telling was self-monitoring at home.
Okay.
But lab monitoring generally is preferred with the poor control. The fasting and post-lunch should be done monthly basis and reviewed with the doctor. And HbA1c and ideally creatinine should be done every 3 to 6 months. These are the standard recommendations, because you have to remember that the presentation of, we have to remember this dictum, like whatever diseases we know, whether it is heart attack or pneumonia or urinary infection or diabetes, it will not have the standard presentations in elderly or senior citizens compared to the normal young age group. So commonly we know that diabetes we have polyphagia, means हातच राहतो, खूप लागते, or polydipsia where we keep drinking water, or polyuria, खूप लघवी होते. Not be the standard or the classical presentation. In elderly, I have had few patients who didn't have any of the symptoms. Their relatives, they brought them just because they were having cognitive problems.
Okay.
Or they had sudden behavioral disorders. Some people also present with incontinence when they control their lagvi sandasa, and few of them even had a fall.
Okay.
So finally, I mean, just to summarize, it is depending from case to case scenario only we can decide how the frequency of monitoring of sugar should be.
So our typical presentation is not uncommon in elderly population who are diabetic.
No.
All right. Now, along with food intake, another important factor, the life of living, is water intake or fluid intake. Now, is dehydration a real problem in the elderly population?
In some categories, in some group of elderly, yes. I mean, people who are independent and who are able to maintain their daily activities, most of them, I generally do not find that they have dehydration.
Okay.
People who are bedridden or who have had a stroke or who have some neurological problem or some problem which is restricting their upper limb, like I told about the paralysis.
Yeah.
Some area which is, or some cognitive problem like dementia. These are more prone for dehydration. And it can because either they are not able to drink enough water, or somewhere where the water is getting lost, either they are having vomiting episodes, loose motions, diarrhea hota hai.
But
In some cases there is a combination of both, where the intake is also less, but they are having these problems also.
okay. Now I had two questions here, doctor.
Yeah.
One is how much should be the fluid intake per day for an elderly? And secondly, ये जरूरी है कि ये fluid intake सिर्फ पानी के माध्यम से ही होना चाहिए? That only water intake is a fluid intake, or other forms of fluids also are considered in the total fluid intake?
So the first questions are basically, see, there is no strict cutoff as such, but if you want a criteria, S10, which I told you, the Europeans, ideally elderly males should drink somewhere around 2 liters per day, and women should drink 1.5 to 1.7 liters per day.
Okay.
But then this again I am telling is not a hard and fast rule. कारण की भरपूरदा असं होतं की रिक्वायरमेंट कमी आहे. Means त्यांचे लॉस वॉटर लॉसेस होत नाही आहे, but still they keep drinking. So individualize. The simple thing to remember is तुम्हाला तहान लागलं, if you feel thirsty then you should drink.
Okay.
नाहीतर भरपूरदा असे पेशंट्स येतात की म्हणतात की नाही आम्ही सकाळी उठल्यावर 4 ग्लास पितो, 2 ग्लास पितो असं. सो इट इज नॉट अ फॅक्ट, और इट इज नॉट अ रूल.
ओके.
छान लागतं तेवढं प्यायचं. ऑब्व्हियसली जर कोणाला अल्झायमर्स आहे किंवा सम न्यूरोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लेम वेअर दे आर नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टँड की किती पाणी प्यायचं, इन दॅट इट हॅज टू बी मॉनिटर्ड.
ओके. आणि
आयडियली इट शुड बी ऑल्सो कम्पेअर्ड विथ किती युरिन पास करताय. आय मीन यू डोंट नीड टू मॉनिटर लाईक हॉस्पिटल की किती ml जात आहे. पण 4 वेळा गेले, 5 वेळा गेले, तर अप्रॉक्सिमेटली तसं तुम्ही त्याला फ्लुइड रिप्लेस करायला पाहिजे.
Does the excessive water consumption or taking water lead to any problem?
Yes, it causes basically metabolic problems are very common.
Okay.
Keep drinking too much water, you are going to your sodium levels are going to go low.
Okay.
So that is one problem which you have to keep in mind. And sodium is not a good condition because it causes confusion. भरपूर लोक बेशुद्ध होऊन येतात, behavioral change होतात. That is one of electrolyte or metabolic abnormalities other than low sugar that we see in the elderly population.
Right.
And regarding your second question, I mean, water is not the only thing. Obviously, yes, water is the best, but that you can take milk and milk products like soy or you can take fruit juices to replenish food stores. Tea, coffee, to certain extent, yes. I would tell that it is better to avoid these soft drinks or cold drinks, especially in food. So few other not that just water is should to be consumed. So you have to take into factor सगळे काही जे आपण पितोय, everything plays a part in the fluid intake.
Okay. Thank you. Now you also mentioned during course of our earlier discussion that cognitive impairment is often seen in very old people. Now, if there is a cognitively impaired elder in my house, how should I manage the proper nutrition in such a person?
See, this is a big challenge. Many of my patients' relatives have this complaint that we are not able to feed them, or the patient is not eating properly. So, first of all, we need to make sure that the caretaker is properly educated ki what is cognitive impairment, or what is Alzheimer's, or what is dementia. To be educated how the disease is going to progress. And at the same time, other things that we need to look into is their oral hygiene. Whether they are having any dental problems or any oral factors are causing problems. You have to remember that dementia or Alzheimer's is a condition in which once it advances, the person cannot tell you what the problem is. Even if they have tooth pain or some problem or some boil or anything, they won't tell. They will just refuse the feeds. So you have to look at the causes which can reversible causes which can be corrected. Yes, we should try to involve food that they used to like. And at the same time, sir, if it is an oral problem or if it is a denture problem, if chewing becomes an issue, they have pain, they may not tell you, but then you have to make sure that you don't give them very hard full chapati or rice. You give them pureed or semi-solid food which they can easily consume or easily be swallowable by them. And ideally, we should, such patients in whom the intake is not, we should keep monitoring their weight on a fortnightly or a monthly basis at least.
Okay.
But at the same time, like the previous question, the nutrition is not the only component. Like I told,
So many others.
nutrition or fluid intake is also very important
Very true.
for patients.
Very true.
We should make sure that they have adequate, because they cannot tell whether they are thirsty or not.
Yeah.
In that case, you have to make sure that they, whenever you are giving them something, or every 2 hourly or 3 hourly or whatever, you give them small sips of few water.
Right.
But make sure they are hydrated also.
What are the simple evidence for weight loss in elderly? घरातल्या घरात समझू शकेल, घर में बैठे पता लगेगा, शायद वेट लॉस हो रहा है, वेइंग बैलेंस तो घर में नहीं है, फिर भी वेट लॉस को कैसा पता लगा सकते हैं?
सर मोस्ट इजीएस्ट है, सबसे इजी जो है कि उनका कपड़ा बहुत लूज हो रहा है. पहले पहनते थे सेम साइज का कपड़ा, अभी उनको एकदम लूज हो रहा है, ढीला पड़ रहा है.
ओके.
उनका पैंट अगर नाड़े वाला है या इलास्टिक पैंट है तो वो इजीली स्लिप हो रहा है.
अच्छा.
वो बेल्ट पहनते हैं, मतलब पैंट पे बेल्ट पहनते हैं, तो बेल्ट का जो क्लिप है उसका साइज आगे वाले क्लिप पे डालना पड़ रहा है, वो वाले क्लिप पे मेंटेन नहीं हो रहा है.
ओके.
दीज आर द कॉमन थिंग्स बेसिकली, म्हणजे जे एक्सटर्नली कळतं की पेशंट इज हॅविंग वेट लॉस.
So in such cases, to avoid this malnutrition to happen, and if the person is not yet cognitively impaired, independent, the elder, what type of diet should the elderly have? खाने में क्या होना चाहिए, generally speaking?
आदि जैसा बोला, पहले जैसे बोला, he should have a balanced diet which contains everything. Means all the, everything I mean all the macronutrients as well as the micronutrients.
Correct.
He has the adequate component of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, the trace elements, and as well as the vitamins. Now, few things are there whether the patient is vegetarian or non-vegetarian.
Okay.
Non-vegetarian is generally they eat both. So, have generally adequate amounts of nutrition in them. But in vegetarian, we have to make sure that they get all the things. So sometimes it becomes necessary that we may need to give them supplemental vitamins or multivitamins, what we call them, as in addition to the food intake that is there.
Right. Correct. Now just a little diversion. In the present COVID era and lockdowns and everything, lot of green vegetables and other subsies, things are not really available easily. So in such cases or otherwise also, would you suggest a fiber supplement as well in these populations?
See, specifically with this, like I told you, almost 70 to 80% of the patients, elderly patients coming are having some or the other form of gastric problem, and majority of them inadvertently have constipation. So, and given the current scenario with the lockdown and the inavailability of fruits and vegetables,
right,
I would recommend that yes, if these issues are a problem, and either otherwise not, every alternate or every third day at least, some or the other form of fiber should be consumed.
Okay.
So, fiber, I mean, if these natural fibers are not available, you can visit a primary care doctor, whoever, physician, whoever it is, and you can discuss and they can prescribe.
You can give a fiber supplement.
Yes.
Could be there. Now, can the elders take their own care, what we call as self-care? And what are the ways to help them to take the self-care?
Okay. Now, self-care, basically, it is for elderly people who are functionally independent. Correct. Cognitively intact.
Correct.
That is basically what I'm trying to tell is preventive measures. So, like what we have been talking till now, first and foremost is they should have a healthy and balanced diet or food.
Correct.
Second important thing is exercise is a very important aspect. So regularly exercise should be done in addition to yoga. Now exercise means asana ki nhavela padne. Every day brisk walk, not every day also. I mean the guidelines suggest even if you go for 5 days, 30 minutes brisk walk every week. That itself is an adequate enough exercise regime. And those who are having some walking issues, for them other thing like swimming can be tried. I mean walking, swimming, what we tell, increases distance. Third component, like I told you, sleep issues are very common in elderly. So make sure that they get enough or adequate sleep, somewhere between 7 to 9 hours at least every day.
Okay.
They should be other like we are doing physical exercise. They should be doing some sort of mentally stimulating exercises also.
Mhm.
That means trying to solve crosswords, Sudoku, or some way reading the newspapers or journals or novels, or helping their grandchildren in some activities. And
Okay.
one more which comes to mind is they can develop some sort of a hobby, new hobby. Like they a new hobby or whatever hobby they have, they can pursue that. Whether it is drawing or painting or coin collection or whatever it is, new
Mhm.
or cooking, just develop it and it will help them in
Mhm.
some quality of life.
Okay. That means घर में जो भी लोग हैं, they should help this elder person to do all these activities. Motivate the person to do all these activities so that the person can remain more fit for a longer time and avoid hospitalization and other things. Now, one
And
issue
in the
comes here. Many times it does happen that the first person or first contact doctor, as it is said, is our family doctor. We rush to the family doctor whenever घर में कुछ problem हो जाता है. Now, what what should the family do? Is there enough awareness about the geriatric management in our medical fraternity? And if so, what the family physician is supposed to, kind of give a primary care for assessment of an elderly person?
so first question, there is still awareness about geriatric care or geriatric medicine or geriatrician is still not that much prevalent in our medical fraternity. Uh,
Mhm.
Yes. Many of the doctors in other specialties also don't know about what is geriatric medicine.
Mhm.
And not just the I mean the doctors, but even the allied specialties and even the common people also. So it is going to take some time. Like to give an example, 20-25 years back, people didn't know what endocrinology is or endocrinologist is.
Correct.
आता
Correct.
लोकांना काही लोक आहेत ज्यांना endocrinologist माहिती नाही.
Mhm.
To diabetes doctor, thyroid doctor, that time they understand.
Mhm.
Pediatrics is relatively still a nascent branch. I mean, it is
Mhm.
established in South India, but the rest of India, it has been coming up since the last, I would say, 10 years.
Mhm.
It is going to take time, and gradually, with more people, more geriatricians coming out and spreading throughout the country, the awareness is bound to increase.
Mhm.
And regarding the primary care doctors, what they should know about the specifically about the elderly, other than the medical problems, is suppose whenever an elderly patient comes to you, make sure that you ask them about their functionality, whether like
Okay.
I discussed, are they able to do their activities by themselves, daily activities. And second is we have to find out how, based on this, how their cognition is. One or two questions, just you don't need to do a thorough assessment.
Okay.
One very important aspect is you have to ask an elderly person, did he have a fall in the last 6 months to 1 year or since the last time he visited you?
Okay.
Because what we आपल्याकडे भरपूर असे केसेस असतात where we come to know about where we hear की बाथरूम मध्ये पडले and he went to the hospital and he developed a fracture.
Mhm.
So this can be prevented, and it is a human mentality that unless and until we have severe problem or pain or injury, we do not tell it to the doctor.
अंगावर काढतो आपण गोष्टी.
I also many times like have heard this answer from my patients when I ask them की नाही पडलो होतो पण मला काही झालं नाही. So
Mhm.
they it just goes out of their mind that they have had a fall. But studies have shown that once elderly person falls, the future chance of him falling increases dramatically.
Oh.
This time, if he has not developed any injury, it doesn't mean next time he won't. Next time he can develop a leg fracture or he can develop a brain injury or a head trauma, and that can be very catastrophic.
Oh.
Another thing you have to ensure is try to gauge their mood levels, whether they are suffering from depression, loneliness
Okay.
is very common, or these days the scenario is that the elderly parents are here and their children are in the foreign countries.
Mhm.
So that also causes, or the husband or wife has passed away and the only single female or male elderly widow is,
Mhm.
and the children are outside. So that
Mhm.
is a cause for depression.
Right.
And
Right.
one more aspect is sleep. You have to always ask them how is their current sleep over the last 1 month or 2 months.
Okay.
These are some of the things that a primary care doctor can just find out. This is something like a screening. So if
Correct.
they find that he is having issue in any significant or any one area, then that is where then he can ask to be reviewed by a geriatrician.
Oh, very well said, doctor. Very well said. Now, what is the time when a person must seek a medical opinion for an elderly person?
Medical as in, you mean geriatric?
Geriatric opinion. I'm talking about geriatric, elderly people.
Okay. See, basically we geriatricians are trained in all aspects of internal medicine. And we are physicians, but our target is only the people who are 60 years of age and above.
Mm-hmm.
Same time, it is not that physicians should not be sought. Geriatrician should particularly be seen if the elderly is having 2 or more chronic diseases for long-standing duration. Basically, what we call as multi-morbidity, like diabetes, blood pressure, diabetes, thyroid, cholesterol. So these 3-4 issues are there together. Then a geriatrician's advice should be sought about how to optimize the medications or the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding treatment, because I told these multiple diseases are there, it is very common to see an elderly is taking 5 or 6 or 7, some are taking 10, 15 tablets also every day. So it's called as polypharmacy. So if that your parent or you are yourself taking too many tablets in a day, basically 5 or more is defined as polypharmacy. So this a geriatrician's advice should be sought.
Okay.
Because we are experts in optimizing the medications.
Okay.
Another thing is, if you have had a fall in the last 1 year, or if you are having gait problem, चालताना त्रास होता है, किंवा balance चक्कर येते हैं, then a geriatric opinion should be sought.
Okay.
Similarly, like we are talking now on nutrition. If the elderly has involuntary weight loss, वजन कम, but they don't understand कि वजन का कमी होता है, or they are eating too much or significant weight gain is there. These are also where a geriatrician's opinion should be sought. And obviously, having cognitive impairment or dementia is there. They are having sleep problems, or they are having chronic constipation or incontinence, and these are some of the areas. Another thing is functionality. त्यांचं जास्त dependent if they are becoming on the caretakers. That is one of the areas where a geriatrician should be sought. And finally, we have to also look after the caregivers. Suppose the husband is chronically sick, elderly husband, and the wife is taking care of everything. And the wife is something called as a caregiver burnout. So even in that condition, a geriatrician's opinion should be sought out.
Oh. Okay, great. Now, I think, Doctor, it was very well explained thing about the geriatric practice, geriatric person. You have very well explained lot of things and simple tips also for helping elderly at home vis-a-vis their nutrition or their fluid intake, or how to keep a check on their weight, and how to, at what time to seek a medical opinion for an elderly person. Now, I think the viewers must be having a lot of questions coming in. So I'll pass on it to Sanjana. Are there any questions by the viewers? If you can share the questions by the viewers.
Yes, so there are questions. So I'll start putting it one by one across.
Yeah, sure.
So first one which we have is, what exercise old people should do and how long or how frequent?
Basically, like I told, there is no strict limit that exercises and everything. I mean, yes, it should be done. Guidelines are there. It depends on the functionality and independence level also. Like I said, ideally at least 30 minutes per day, even if you do 5 days in a week, like Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can give rest 5 days in a week, and exercises, even brisk walk. Now, brisk walk means a bit faster than normal walking speed. Even that you do for 30 minutes, that is more than adequate enough. But other than that, you have, see, brisk walk is basically for the legs. You have to do certain exercises for the upper limbs also. For that, other things, yoga is there, which is relatively very helpful. It helps in breathing exercises as well as in the upper limb movements. And some other exercises which help in fall prevention, basically Tai Chi, but that is not yet very well known in India. But there are a few people who are doing it, or you can see it on YouTube. Or always it is better to seek the help of an expert before you do that. Another exercise which you can do, if possible, cycling. I mean, I'm telling everything should be done on the same day. You can keep changing. One day I'm doing this, one day I'm doing this, one day I'm doing that. Swimming is a very good exercise. All the muscles in the body are involved. And particularly in stroke patients who are not able to walk in, them we have something called as water therapy, something like that, where they are made to walk in water. So the resistive gravity forces go down, and that is also something which can be tried.
Okay. So another question we have is that the doctor generally advise elderly people to lose weight, but they find it very difficult. So what has been your experience?
See, it is actually something which is very debatable. Obviously, yes, obesity, the BMI also. Obesity is something which has multiple other comorbidities, or it is a risk factor for other heart issues, brain issues, and everything. So weight loss is recommended, but then it should be targeted under a qualified dietitian, and at the same time someone who is observing. It should not be some fad like some new diet which has come in and you follow that. Because what happens is, if you restrict your body, I mean, see, intermittent fasting is a proven strategy to prolong life, but then it has to be something which is followed properly. If you fast too much and restrict too much of your food intake, you're going to lose your weight. But what is happening in this is fat is not getting burned. Your muscle mass, your muscle protein is getting lost. So you develop something called as sarcopenia. Yes, the fat also gets lost, but what happens is once you start eating, the proteins are not the first things to be built. The fat is the first to be built. So what happens is the person may actually be lean or thin, but because of the fat, his obesity is there. So his lean body mass is less, but his fat content is more. So there is something called as sarcopenic obesity.
Oh.
Really overweight people, if they follow the proper recommendations, the dietary factors, and do the exercise, that should be adequate. But yes, in certain instances, it requires certain surgical interventions like bariatric surgery. So whatever you're planning, don't do it by yourself, do it under the guidance of an expert.
Yeah.
So another question we have is what particular nutrients would you suggest for a patient who has recovered from cardiac arrest?
So recovered from cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Okay. It is good he has recovered. I mean, thing is, like I said, it depends now what underlying comorbidities that patient has. Whether the patient is having diabetes, blood pressure, kidney problem, on everything it depends. We cannot give a blanket recommendation, or nobody can give a blanket recommendation that this should be followed. So the best person to advise will be the primary care doctor of this patient. But like I told, the standard recommendations which have been laid down, the adequate nutrition or the adequate proportions should be followed, like 55 to 50% of carbohydrates and 20% proteins and 15% fats. And it is better if the patient has put on some supplemental nutrition also, supplemental wine, multivitamin tablets, because this is an acute, I don't know how long the cardiac arrest was, but if the patient is in the recovery or post-recovery immediate phase, then he requires extra. And this much his food intake will not, he first of all, he won't be able to eat that much. And his intake won't be that much, so the absorption of nutrition won't be there. So it is better to provide some supplemental nutrition under the guidance of your primary care doctor.
So another question we have is there any new therapy to avoid insulin? A new therapy to avoid insulin?
Avoid for
Insulin
diabetes,
replacement.
Yeah. Insulin replacement.
See, finally, each and every diabetic patient is going to be on insulin, because as the duration of diabetes, we have to understand that diabetes happens because there is decrease in insulin. So during the initial periods for type 2 diabetics, type 1 will require insulin from the beginning. Type 2 diabetics, there are certain medicines which can force the pancreas. Insulin comes from the pancreas. Can force the pancreas to secrete the insulin, or certain medicines are there which can decrease the absorption of glucose. Certain medicines are there which will increase the excretion of glucose from the urine. So few medicines have come up recently, like the SGLT2 inhibitors and few others. But then we have to remember that finally they also see, obviously medicines also have a side effect also. One point will come like 20 years, 15 years, 25, depends, varies from patient to patient. A point will come where the cells, pancreas cells from where the insulin is made, they are going to be destroyed. So none of these medicines is going to be effective enough, or if they are effective, they are not going to be controlling the sugar adequately. So finally, a point will come where a patient will have to be on insulin. But at the same time, you have to remember, initially also, many times it happens that you go to your doctor and he sees your reading and he tells you, आपको insulin चालू करना पड़ेगा. You have to understand that no doctor likes to put any patient on insulin. The recommendations are there, like, so to give an example, HbA1c, which is the 3 months average sugar. Ideally, if your HbA1c is somewhere around 9 or 9 to 10 and above, it is recommended that along with oral medicines, insulin is started initially. It is called as priming. So that what happens is when you start directly at such a high load, the pancreas are overstimulated and they get exhausted faster. And the insulin initially for a short term can also help in stabilizing all this and preventing the complications affecting your nerves, your kidney, your brain. So yes, few medicines are there, but there is nothing which is going to down the line stop you from going on to insulin.
Okay.
So we have one last question from audience, that is there any good snacks that you can recommend for elders?
Good snacks. I'm not a promoter of any brand, but suggest is see, very useful. One thing which I recommend to all my patients is you should have oatmeal, at least in or evening. That is the one thing I recommend. Any brand, but oats are phenomenally useful. They have a good enough content of fibers. They have other trace nutrients. They are known to help in the cholesterol metabolism as well as diabetes. So just like small children, we give cornflakes or whatever it is. Even if the elderly, we give them oatmeals, oat upma, whatever it is, they have it. It will help a lot in the long run.
Okay. So it was a wonderful interaction. Sanjana, thank you very much. Dr. Srinivas, really you have elucidated the very difficult medical management and other things in a very user-friendly, as it is said, for commodities. It's very consumer-friendly thing, a very patient-friendly language, very simple language. And in fact, personally, I have benefited a lot because I'm already in that elderly group. And all your input that you have shared today will help me planning my own life as well. I'm sure that all of the viewers also, I learned a lot. The talk given by Dr. Srinivas will help everyone to plan their own lifestyle for all the elders or all elders at home. Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivas. We will have more sessions with you because the topic of geriatric management is a huge area. I look forward interacting with you again sometime later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Srinivas sir. Thank you, Patrankar sir, for being with us for this discussion.